There's really not a whole lot of battles going into spring training in 2025, but there are a few that we need to keep an eye on. And I think that the biggest one is probably at second base. We'll save that till the end of this video. Let's start here with third base. And not necessarily who's going to start at third base, because it's going to be Jorge Polanco. It's who's going to be the backup at third base. Because we already know one of the first moves the Mariners made this offseason was Austin Shenton. They acquired Austin Shenton, who could possibly play third base for you. We know Leo Rivas could play third base a little bit. And if we bring up the Mariners depth chart here, it lists Jorge Polanco, Dylan Moore, who we know is probably going to be starting at second base, but he could factor in here as well. Donovan Solano, which sounds like he'll mainly play first, but I guess sure. Leo Rivas, Austin Shenton, and Miles Mastrobuoni. So, between who could be like the backup or even the utility guy in the infield for the Mariners, Leo Rivas, Austin Shenton, Miles Mastrobuoni is kind of who we're looking at here. And honestly, I think that Leo Rivas has the edge. Obviously, he played for the Mariners in 2025 and wasn't terrible. He is a switch hitter as well. Yeah, I think that the Mariners value his versatility, and I think that as a switch hitter, he could be pretty impactful for this team. In 2024 for the Mariners, in 43 games, just 86 plate appearances, Leo Rivas hit 233, 333, 274, no slugging whatsoever, with a 607 OPS. He didn't hit any home runs, had 8 RBI, stole 3 bags, struck out 24 times, and walked 10 times. Again, Rivas is not going to hit the cover off the ball, but he's a good fallback plan. Saw most of his time at second base, 37 innings at second base, just 2 over there at third base, and also 2 innings as a pitcher with a, you know what? Screw it. He's going to be in the bullpen. Shenton has played in less games in the majors than Leo Rivas has. 19 games for him, 50 plate appearances. Good for a 214, 340, 405. With a 745 OPS, a lot more slugging here for Austin Shenton. He did have 1 home run. He walked 8 times and struck out 14 times. He also had an OPS plus of 114. So it's possible the Mariners do want to go with the power side here, the left-handed bat of Austin Shenton. He did hit 258, 361, 497 in AAA last year. He also cracked 20 home runs with 65 RBI. So maybe the Mariners do want to bank on that upside a little bit with Austin Shenton. We know he doesn't have any options. Miles Mastrobuoni has the most time in the majors between the 3 of these guys, but he has not been good. In 119 games through 3 seasons in the major leagues, he's at 219, 279, 263. Good for a 542 OPS. He has 1 home run, 9 RBI, 16 stolen bags, 21 walks, and 55 strikeouts. In 2024, in the major leagues, he spent most of his time at third base with the Chicago Cubs, 98 2/3 innings, but he also spent 57 innings over at second base and 62 innings over at shortstop. So he can move all around the infield. Again, a left-handed power guy maybe has a little bit better... Again, a left-handed power guy. I think Rivas has better bat-to-ball skills, and honestly, potentially so does Shenton. But yeah, Miles Mastrobuoni is an option as well. I'd probably give the edge there to Leo Rivas, like I said earlier on in the video. I think that as a guy who has been with this team, a guy who seems to, know the teammates and whatnot, he just makes sense to have on this roster. He makes a little bit more sense over at second base. And by what they've talked about in past press conferences or interviews or what have you, they've said his name specifically. Austin Shenton hasn't really been mentioned at all, and neither has Miles Mastrobuoni. So I think that Leo Rivas has the edge here. That could change in spring training, right? One of these guys comes out here and hits the cover off the ball. That immediately changes. But as of right now, I'm leaning to Leo Rivas. Let's take a look at the bullpen now, because there's some interesting moves to be made in here. 8 spots in the bullpen. There's a few guys you can lock in, right? Andres Munoz, Colin Snyder, Trent Thornton is a guy who's locked in. It sounds like Edward Bazardo is locked in as well. They really liked what they saw out of him at the end of 2024. And then Gregory Santos, providing he's healthy, is locked in. That's 5 guys, leaving 3 spots open. Now we know that Troy Taylor's not going to be able to start the year. He's not going to be healthy to start the year, so I'm not including him here. Obviously, he will be in there when we get to that point. Same story with Matt Brash. He will be in the bullpen when he comes back towards the end of April, I think they said. But as of right now, I'm not including him in this because, well, obviously, he just doesn't have a shot. With that being said, that does leave a few more guys. Let me switch the screen over to the depth chart here. So like I said, Munoz, Thornton, Snyder, these three are locked in. The next guy on the list is Taylor Saucedo, who had a pretty rough year in 2024. Gabe Spire, another guy that had a rough year in 2024, both left-handed pitchers. Then we have a lot of new guys here in Hagen Danner, Casey Legumina, and Will Klein. Now these are guys that are just on the 40-man roster. When we move over to just everyone here, there's a lot of guys that have been added to the pile that I can point out here. Shintaro Fujinami, a guy who throws 103 miles an hour, has an okay chance. Brandon Garcia, we've talked about quite a bit, especially in a recent video. Hunter Cranton's a guy that I also talked about in a recent video. Austin Kitchen, a guy who is part of this, who is a part of the pile. Casey Lawrence, probably not. Drew Pomerantz, maybe. Darius Valdez, another guy that's part of the pile. So a lot of guys in here for the Mariners bullpen that they have to work with. I didn't even mention Neftali Feliz, but somehow he still has something in the tank. He's with the Mariners now. I know it's a name that a lot of people know. But overall, I think the Mariners are in a really good spot in their bullpen as long as Adonis Medina, another guy I didn't even mention, by the way. But the Mariners are in a good spot with their bullpen. There's going to be a lot of interesting moves to be made at the end of spring training. Obviously, that's provided all these guys stay healthy, which is incredibly unlikely. But if they do, I would, those last three spots, I'd say Brandon Garcia has a pretty good chance. I would say Gabe Spire has a good chance. I'm sorry, Sauce. I think just, oh gosh, Spire had a really bad year last year. Oh, maybe Sauce. You know, I'm going to go with Sauce over Gabe Spire there. And that last spot, I'm going to give that last spot to Hunter Cranton. I have no idea why, but I love the idea of Hunter Cranton in the bullpen in 2025. So those are the three guys I'm giving those extra spots to: Brandon Garcia, Hunter Cranton, and Taylor Saucedo. Now, easily the most interesting spot that we're going to talk about here in this video, the most interesting battle in spring training for the 2025 Seattle Mariners, is second base. It sounds like the first crack at it is going to be Dylan Moore. In fact, that was Jerry DePoto said as much. Maybe it was Hollander. One of those two said as much. Those guys are going to get like the first crack at second base. Then some combination of Ryan Bliss, Leo Rivas, and eventually, hopefully, Cole Young. Once again, no mention of Miles Masterboni there, which I do find interesting. But is Dylan Moore really good enough to be your everyday second baseman? I'm not sure. I would almost rather, if the Mariners are going to do this, right? If the Mariners' plan is to run out a potential platoon or a potential what have you at second base, I would almost rather they run out Ryan Bliss. I know that Dylan Moore had a relatively good year last year. Very good defensively. They say second base is his best position defensively, and I look forward to seeing that. I just think that we don't know what we've got with Ryan Bliss right now, and he needs to get everyday at-bats to figure that out. Now, hopefully, he's going to get a lot of those in spring training, just so we're clear. Him, like guys like Ben Williamson, they're going to see a lot of time in spring training. But I think that Dylan Moore, Ryan Bliss, and not so much Leo Rivas, Ryan Bliss and Dylan Moore, I think, should fight it out just in spring training. Whoever is better in spring training should get the opening day start for the Seattle Mariners. And obviously, Cole Young does have that outside shot. But we talked about in the last video, if he hits the cover off the ball, I think there's a good chance he could make the opening day roster. It's highly unlikely. But if it does happen, that would be a lot of fun. But second base, man, is the one position on the field where it's like, Dylan Moore? Like, yeah, I guess it's fine. I would much rather prefer Dylan Moore in a super utility position, a guy who's moving all around the infield and even the outfield. And I think that locking him into one position is putting a damper on his value, if that makes sense. Whereas Ryan Bliss, pure second baseman, right? He's a guy who we know where he's going to play, plays decent defense at second base, and until we know if his bat's good or not, how are we going to know how we quantify what we've got in Ryan Bliss? So I'll be very interested to see how he plays in 2025 in spring training. Same with Cole Young. Dylan Moore, he has a spot on this team no matter what. But Ryan Bliss and Cole Young, I think both could potentially have a shot at opening day roster. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this. I appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.